Hello and welcome to another Carfection Commentaries, where we take a classic film from our back catalogue, dust it off and present it to you as new, but this time with some information that you might not have heard before. I'm Drew Stern and I'm joined by Alex Goy.
Hello.
And we're celebrating the fact that we've been doing this for 5 years, a solid half decade.
5 years.
Wow. The film we have for you today is one of our personal favourites from a period of time where we went on a US tour to pack in as many films as we possibly could in 3 weeks, and our first stop was in Texas because we wanted to join a little company called DeLorean and see just exactly what they were up to now, but more importantly drive a car from their back catalogue.
I wanted to go in a DeLorean because I'm a child.
If you want to watch this film in its unadulterated version without us talking about it, there's a link in the description to its original version, and we do encourage you to look at that because it is a phenomenal film. But in the meantime,
play the tape! So this US trip, we were in the US for 21 days. We had 6 days of travel time and we made... we were in the US for 19 days. We had 6 days of travel time and we made 21 films.
Yeah. This stop is just outside of Houston in Texas.
It's a place called Humble.
Pronounced Humble.
Oh, is it?
The locals pronounce it Humble. They don't
Well,
pronounce
it's spelt Humble.
I know it's present Humble.
So Humble.
The great thing about this film was that you'll see all this lightning in the background, and you think, oh, that must have been hard to get. We were in such a big lightning storm when we filmed this car, which is... Driving a car and filming a car from Back to the Future felt a little bit weird that we were doing it in a lightning storm.
No one ever noticed that the door pull got trapped in the door on this.
Oh no, I never noticed that.
I told you about it and I was like, look, door pull's down there. No one noticed.
The shots that with the lightning in it was actually harder for us to avoid the lightning, and that almost every single shot. In fact, we all got the shot like Marty McFly all standing in the doorframe doing that. And was it yours or Nick's where
Nick had actual lightning?
It was in a still, not even in a video, in a still, and there was lightning in the background of the shot.
And also, Drew was so against me putting any Back to the Future references in the script to this. I had to mention Marty McFly in it because you can't not. But it wasn't until this film was published that he noticed my T-shirt.
And I was there with him the whole day. And
Hill Valley, 1955.
It never quite...
It was wicked.
I
got away with that.
It was such... this was summertime in Houston, in Texas.
40 degrees. He doesn't do well with heat.
It was really hot. And you were at least in a car with not the greatest air conditioning, but at least you were in a car with air conditioning.
You had a car with air conditioning?
No, we were outside for most of it. We were filming you.
Well, while Nick and I were doing drive-bys and GoPros and what have you. Sorry, GoPros. You were in our town and country horrible box with the aircon set to as low as possible, please. To stop like dicking on Drew, the whole idea behind this was we'd got this booked in. We were going to go and interview the guys who run DeLorean now and have a talk to them about what's going on, because they're the people that keep DeLoreans going in the US at least. They bought all of the old parts from the old factory and they've set up in basically this amazing shed in Nowhereton, Texas, and we asked to drive one of the cars, and they said, well, we haven't all the pristine cars we've got, they're all customer cars, so you can't take one of those away. But here, I was sold this one by a girl who was given one as a graduation present when she was 21, and she's been driving it for nearly 20 years, and she came to us and said, how much to restore it? And they went, lots of money. And then she went, how much to sell it to you? And they went, less money. And she took the less money option. So by the time we got it, it was not in great nick. The air conditioning leaked, dodgy water all over the passenger footwell. It itself was not effective at all. So I had slightly colder than what was outside air being blown on me at any given time.
But
we got told off for that shot because it's not very good for the doors, apparently.
What, to close them while you're driving?
No, to drive them with them up. It's not great for you.
The doors themselves, there's so much wrong with the design of those doors. The fact they look awesome. I mean, this car introduced Gullwing Doors to the psyche of most people.
Yeah.
Like, this is the first car that most people had seen with Gullwing Doors.
The interesting thing about the Gullwing Doors as a thing was that DeLorean saw the fact that they could do it, so decided that that was what was going to be like the defining feature of his car, other than the bodywork and all that kind of thing. But they asked why can't we just have regular doors? And he said, look, every new brand needs something to distinguish itself, and for us it's going to be those doors.
And this car, to be honest, it's like that Giugiaro era of design and Giugiaro design. When you really discount the doors, it's not that remarkable.
No.
In terms of its design.
It's British, and the wheelbase on the car was extended by 6 months in the middle of development. This car was developed in record-breaking time by Lotus. And there's a whole big story around it. And it was while I was researching this film, that I decided to do a proper documentary on DeLorean and what happened. So we ended up interviewing a load of people who work for DeLorean in Ireland and in the UK, and we spoke to a few guys that were based out in the US, a few owners, and we found out that basically this was supposed to be a really special thing, because DeLorean had this amazing history with General Motors. He was the youngest department head. He worked for Pontiac. He was all set to be the president of General Motors. His career was only on the up, but some things happened that it's very murky and very dodgy. But essentially, some people say interesting business practices. Some people say, oh, Mr. DeLorean just wanted to change the world. Whatever it was, he left GM. And ended up going, you know what, sod it, I'm going to create an ethical car, not something that's replaced year on year, not something that you need to feel bad about not having the latest model year of, something that would last forever. Hence the bodywork and the materials used within it was supposed to be this something that would never really break, and if it did, it was cheap and easy to replace. It was supposed to be the car that lasted forever, the one that broke the mould of the automotive industry at the time. What happened, of course, well, it's kind of up in the air. There were various decisions made that were a bit dodgy, and there's a whole documentary on that. We'll stick a link in the comments below to have a look at that. But the whole thing, the reason people got involved in this, they were either young guns who wanted to do something new with their career and really make a mark on the industry, or some old boys who'd been around for a while and wanted to leave on a high. And the car itself, it had such promise, it could have been such a brilliant thing, but were it not for a few quite stupid decisions during its development, and then of course there's the FBI drug sting, which definitely didn't help, it could have been something amazing. And here's the thing, that we probably won't do a commentary on the DeLorean documentary we did, but there would have been a really good way for DeLorean to have stayed. That we didn't get to cover in this or the film we did later. So one of the guys who used to work for DeLorean, who while the company was in administration, a chap called Barry Wills, he was the MD, and they spoke to the receiver, who was tasked with figuring out what to do with the company because they were in dire financial straits. And they came up, he and a couple of colleagues came up with an idea to create the Dunmurry Motor Company. Hard to say if you're quite tired. So they could keep the logo, the DMC logo. They could keep the factory where they would build the DMC-12. They would call the brand Healy, and they would license the Triumph TR7 and TR8, and they make the Healy 2000, which is TR7, the Healy 3500, which was the TR8, the V8 version of the TR7, and the Healy Gullwing, and that would have been the DeLorean, and they could have kept it going. And when you speak to people that used to work there, they think that if the company hadn't have been screwed over by a terrible winter and some pretty awful decisions and DeLorean doing some potentially allegedly shady things that he was never convicted of, the company would still be here today. I mean, one of the guys we interviewed compared it to kind of a latter-day Tesla, which is kind of fair, considering what they tried to do. The intent for doing something completely different was there. And, out of the, 9,000 odd that were made, most of those are still on the road today, which is quite something, considering they have a reputation for being shonky. And don't get me wrong, that car was terrible. The 3-speed automatic gearbox was hateful. The air conditioning slowly didn't work. The steering was numb. The brakes eventually stopped the car.
It was really comfortable, though.
It was really comfortable.
Those seats were unbelievably comfortable.
I was told repeatedly, it was never supposed to be a proper sports car. It was a sports GT. It was supposed to be driven cross-country, not hammered around a racetrack, but driven from A to B and to look good. Sort of a Bentley Continental GT, but with 130 horsepower, terrible V6 engine. It's...
Look at those sweat marks.
Oh, I was so hot. The air conditioning was awful. And the thing is, we couldn't go anywhere in that because the guys from DeLorean said, you know what, keep the car for the night, because we shot this on the first day we met them. And they said, keep the car for the night, go on, have some fun. So producer Nick drove it back to Houston where we were staying.
Ivor drove it back to where we were staying.
No, he didn't, Nick did, because we played the Back to the Future theme tune through my phone. And there was an amazing thunderstorm. I promise you, because I was in the passenger seat.
I drove that through the thunderstorm back to our house in Houston.
No, you didn't.
I did.
I was next to Nick. Because I remember playing Back to the Future.
You were in our crappy rental car
No,
playing
I
it in
wasn't,
that, and
'cause
I was
I was
driving
there.
that car. Oh, no, you weren't. Because that's
Nick,
the only time
Nick
I drove
was sat
it.
there going, I'm in a DeLorean, this is the best thing ever. I remember it so well.
I drove that through that thunderstorm.
And
it was the most spectacular thunderstorm we've ever seen.
You would have driven it a bit of the way because we had to get that back to somewhere, but Nick drove it all the way home.
I definitely drove that through the thunderstorm because I was in there, driving it, and it is definitely worth stating again. That thunderstorm
was horrific.
Never seen anything like it in my entire life.
It was beautiful, but it was horrific. Anyway, we drove it back to Houston, and I was sent on a pizza run. And sadly, the big practical people carrier thing we had was blocked in by the DeLorean. So I had to go and get the beer and the pizza in the DeLorean in the driving rain. I was terrified because this thing was awful. The wipers weren't the greatest in the world. And I pulled into CVS pharmacies just to try and get some beers. And as I got out of it, people were screaming at me, hollering at me, going, "Oh my God, cool car, man, where's your flux capacitor?" Which did get quite annoying, and I only had the car for 24 hours.
Which is weird considering the factory is only a couple miles down the road as well. They must see these on the road in Houston more often than that.
That was a braking test just there. It was awful. I did my best Kermit the Frog face impression.
That where we're shooting that was on the Beltway, which was like the precursor to the freeway. So you've got 2 lanes going in one direction and 2 lanes going back the other, with that huge ditch in the middle.
Yeah.
And Nick and I stood at the side of that and watched you going by, and we were trying to film the sound of you passing by, and just as you passed by, you went on the radio and da, 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 and screwed up the audio take. We're like,
oh come on,
you'd have to do it again. No, you thought it was hilarious.
And the speedo didn't even go up to 88 miles an hour. I know it was a federal thing. It was a federal thing. Cars weren't allowed to. Blah 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 blah.
Yeah, but the manual did. The manual's gearbox. The
either
speedo
way,
went over.
It was a legal thing. I spoke to a person who knows about these things, but it's still awful gearbox. And that car park there, that was a church. There was a sort of super church next to the side of the road.
They do big churches in
we
Texas.
We were parked up there just putting bits on the car and faffing around and doing our thing. The security guard walked up because there was, I think, a service going on and something for kids. He walked up and said, "Sorry, what are you guys doing?" And we all became the most British people known to man. I went, "Oh, I'm terribly sorry, old chap. We're just here down here shooting the DeLorean. We're from London, you know."
That shot there in the factory, that is a sight that most mortals will never get to see, which is a dozen DeLoreans all parked in a row. And
what we haven't put in this is the red DeLorean that was painted red for John DeLorean's brother's car dealership.
Yeah, we never got a chance to put that in. And actually, one of the things that we got a chance to learn was the tiny differences between the 3 different model years.
Oh, I hate this shot because I'm getting out the wrong side of the car.
Yeah.
And I made such a fuss about it at the
and
time.
no one noticed.
No one noticed. Even Jalopnik, when they published this film, used that as a GIF.
And
that really annoyed me because I was getting out the wrong side of the car, and I'm a stickler for that kind of thing.
Yeah, but people could just assume that you were the passenger in the car at that time, having
been in the driving seat for the entire film,
and literally no one noticed. But now they will.
No one pays attention to me.
Out. Anyway, if you'd like to watch that film unadulterated, as we said, without all of this incredibly insightful information that Alex has given, then there's a link in the description that will take you to the absolute original version as it was originally published. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. The more of you that do that, the easier it is for us to continue to make these films for you to enjoy for absolutely free. And if there's a film from our back catalogue which we haven't done this commentary on, but you think would really be interesting to do, let us know in the comments below. And until the next time, goodbye.
Bye.